Hi everyone. So as we know, Final Fantasy VII Remake was controversial in that it included whispers, and beyond whispers the concept of a change story, right? In the discussion of Final Fantasy VII Remake, I've seen a lot of people talk about time travel. I don't think we necessarily have to go that far. And in this video, let me explain why through looking at some broader philosophical concepts and then tying them into Remake. Specifically, I think considering fate versus determinism might be helpful here. The enemies at the end are called fate, but really I think in Remake we're working with determinism largely as well. These concepts are often mixed in discussion, or at least in media, so I don't think that's such a leap to make. Generally, determinism speaks to how if we have an entirely complete set of facts, with a full knowledge of the rules that will act on those facts, we will know the future entirely as well. A quick basic example, I think, is that if you know every single detail about how a specific ball is thrown at a specific ground, and we also know what laws of nature and physics will hold for that situation, we can perfectly map out its trajectory without fail, every time. Thus, true omniscience of the present, right, of current time, will typically mean true omniscience of eternity, right? Again, if we can trust that laws will hold, and typically that too will be determined. Typically also, this kind of omniscience would be reserved for, air quotes, God. I mean the conceptual idea, a seer of all at once, right? A being that could see everything at once, and not just space at once, but time at once. So bringing this concept to Remake, the planet is clearly omniscient in that kind of way. Since the live stream courses through it, the future of the planet, if the planet could know things, and I'm doing air quotes again, is set, right? It's aware of every possible piece, every possible ball in the situation we're looking at, bar except for the foreign Genova. That's another discussion to have. And thus theoretically, the entire history of the planet exists in it at all times. This is true even of our universe, one might say, right? I would say planet again, but the planet would also involve what comes from space and whatever. Philosophically, fate is a little different, but happens to result in the same consideration ultimately, most times, which is why I say that it's often used interchangeably in media. Fate instead suggests a preordained outcome that will be arrived at, regardless of what is done before. Fate is the idea that's invoked in the Oedipus story. I won't get into it now, but the idea there is that the character is fated. Determinism is thus less cosmic or mystical in its nature, more like physics-based and in a sense more comprehensive, but is also less rigid, since being able to predict an outcome entirely is not the same as forcing it to occur, right? Where fate speaks more to being more forcefully, cosmically guided. It's preordained. It's kind of magical in that sense. Ultimately, the same future will follow with both, though. The end point will be the same. It's the details that make the accounts different. I think in Remake, at least Remake Part 1, these two are mixed slightly in a really cool way, in my opinion at least. The planet is aware, and I'm doing air quotes again, of how things should unfold according to the laws of nature, in being aware of every piece on and in it, right? In a sense, it is every piece on it. So it has access to every cause possible, and thus every effect possible, every outcome possible. So bringing this in, since Aerith can commune with, or at least vaguely understand the planet, or the live stream, or the flow of life, or the Tao, she has access to all this knowledge, right? Hence her knowing how things are going to turn out, despite how she actually feels about it. I believe Sephiroth, his will, his consciousness too, in being plugged in, like plugged into the planet in the same way, has access to these facts. He also might believe through ego, though, that his will is the planets now. It's one and the same. Whereas Aerith taps in a more humble and understanding way. The Whispers then, getting to the thrust of my point here maybe, as harbingers of fate, represent a sort of world order, the very laws of nature. They are acting as fate, but really I think it is the universe manifesting its laws in response to some anomalies. For one, us, and I mean us the player. Since we move the characters, having knowledge of what's going to go down, knowledge the characters shouldn't have themselves. Another I think is Aerith, but throughout the game she seems to respect the Order as something bigger than them and her, in line with what seems to have been the ethos of the Cetra. Sephiroth, I think, instead believes he is that Order now. And I think the foreign Jenova plays into this too. He doesn't flow with in the same way. Again, think of Taoism, but seems to instead aim to command that flow according to his will. A taboo. And this invokes that idea of taboo, for example, in Kingdom Hearts 3, spoiler for maybe the next 30 seconds, where Sora commits a taboo in time travel or time manipulation, right? Taboo in this sense meaning something deeply unnatural, cosmically wrong. Sora pays a big price for that in Kingdom Hearts. But this idea is, I think, something that like Nomura seems to like. I like the idea too. I'm a stan of a lot of like Nomura's kinds of thematic thinking. I like it a lot. But all of that is to say, that's why he is such a threat, Sephiroth, and why Aerith says at one point, I think it's a literal quote, he's all wrong. But that is also why we are such a big threat, and why the Whispers seem to be a response of the universe to the anomaly of us. Much in the way that the planet deploys weapon when it senses an anomaly or some problem. The Whispers are like the weapons to deal with the players who know the story and would affect it in law-breaking, in taboo ways. For this reason, the Whispers, I think, are a really cool concept, in a way are like necessary, where the audience, or where the entire audience, is omniscient in an unnatural way that goes against the very nature of the planet. I'll expand on that. Given this, I think the ending is pretty profound. The crew, and specifically Aerith, decide to forsake the preordained, the determined, the very universe and its nature essentially, to make things better for everyone. And of course this nature has been corrupted by another individual ego, a selfish will, Sephiroth, who has managed to blur the lines between natural order and his preferred order. I suspect through a combo of his extremely strong will and his saturation of Jenova cells, which is an organism of conquering, mixing into the livestream post his death. This concept, I think, I'm drawing from the ideas from Advent Children, right? Where Jenova cells are literally seen as like a foreign thing in the body of the planet, and the planet's immune system is literally fighting against it like a disease, like an invader, let's say, causing geostigma. Sephiroth is very much like an invader, like a conqueror, a controller of the will, right? And, you know, so coming to that idea of fighting against the preordained, as a fan of Final Fantasy in general, I love that humanistic theme, that like, screw the order, we will not accept that, we're cheeky fucking humans, and through the power of our will, we'll make things better. We'll be free for better or worse, even against the cosmos itself if we have to. Fuck you, God. Right? I love that shit. I've grown up with that shit. It's the way I think in general. So I'm a bit biased, of course. For that reason, I'm okay with the Whispers. To me, it feels like taking very seriously what it means to remake something, and plays with that very meta situation itself. If the game, the planet, reacted the same way, despite our extra knowledge, again, I mean the player, it would be, well, just like a game, right? But this makes the very universe, the planet itself, a character, reacting to our return as players. I think they're great, especially for a title like Final Fantasy VII that's got so much baggage. And I mean baggage in that, like, so much not notoriety. It's so much. It's famous, so famous. We all know it. We all know the iconic moments from. We all know the twists and turns the story beats, right? What other story is so ubiquitous? I mean, there are, but only a story this ubiquitous, this well known in the community and beyond, right? What other story could the planet being such an active, reactive character fit more for, right? Like, I think this is something that's very Final Fantasy, and I think Nomura's done a really cool thing in, like, taking the opportunity to use Remake to make, like, a new product, man, like something new and exciting for us, you know. So Rebirth is coming out in a couple of days. I probably will not be able to play that anytime soon. But I had this theory sitting. I had written a post about this somewhere, and I read it again recently, and I thought this is kind of interesting. I must have written this like 2 years ago now. I thought it was kind of interesting, but also I thought it's about to be debunked entirely because Rebirth is just going to change the entire story, right? So I was like, you know what? I've had like ideas for essays. I have another one for a Death Note discussion. So I thought, let me get this out this week while it might still be slightly relevant before it gets debunked. And then I figured, like, if anyone sees it later, then it'll just get a lot of engagement of people correcting me because they think I'm a moron, which is dope. So anyway, this is my first. It's gonna be trash. The editing is gonna be trash. But if you enjoyed it, I'm glad. This has been a long time coming for me, and I have some other ideas. So if you enjoyed it, do tell me. It'll motivate me to maybe like make more. I'm not making promises, but yeah, if you enjoyed this, I'm glad. If you get to play Rebirth, enjoy that. And I look forward to talking about that maybe one day as well. If you did enjoy this, let me know if there's something else you'd like me to discuss, because it's fun, obviously. And yes, excuse my fresh, this is literally my first video, so it's gonna be trash, right? Thanks for listening. I appreciate that a whole lot. And yeah, have a good day or whatever. I don't have a sign off, but have a good day. Blessings. Thanks for listening.